The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello, and welcome to the latest live episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 368. So we've got more than enough episodes for you to watch, one a year now, or one per day for a whole year and more. But today, this fine Wednesday evening, I've got another returning guest. The last time we saw this wonderful wrestler on the show was nearly 2 years ago, December 2022. But for the last nearly 2 years, this performer has had a wonderful, wonderful breakout couple of years on the UK scene. I want to introduce to you none other than the Wonderland warrior, ALUNA. ALUNA, thank you so much for coming back onto the show after nearly 2 years. We'll call it 2 years because it's nearly 2 years. But how are you? And thank you for coming onto the show.
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you, Jonas. And thank you very much for having me back. It's always appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, like I say, I brought the show back after a little bit of a hiatus and focusing on returning guests and some of my favorite people on the scene. And just to recap, a few weeks ago when I did make my return, I had the Legion King, Chris Aries, that came onto the show just a few days after making the announcement of the name change. We spoke about United Wrestling, Ignite, all about the name change and so much more. The current future-proof champion, of course, in United Wrestling. The week after, 2 weeks ago, I had Demolition Woman L.A. Taylor. I'm not going to reel off the list of championships that she currently holds, but she is certainly the United Wrestling heavyweight champion and so much more. But L.A. Taylor was a fantastic guest at episode 366. And last week, I had none other, well, it's kind of two for the price of one, you could say. Memes and Blue Pain joined me on episode 367. We spoke about wrestling at Joey Janela's spring break over in Philly over Mania weekend when he faced the indie god, Matt Cardona. We spoke all about Blue Pain, the kind of the creation of Blue Pain and the reveal that it was actually memes underneath the mask this whole time. But this week, I've got none other than the Southwest Wrestling Warriors champion and the New Wave Wrestling Women's champion, ALUNA. ALUNA, thanks again for coming on to the show. But I've got to say, and I said at the top of the show, it's been nearly 2 years since you were last on the show. And what a 2 years it's been. And I know we kind of briefly exchanged messages yesterday, and you said you've packed so much into the last 2 years. Can you honestly believe what a thrill ride it's been for you since we last spoke?
No, like, honestly, I genuinely, like the last time we spoke, I couldn't have imagined that I would have been kind of very luckily this busy since we last spoke. And I've been able to do so many cool things and so many like new things to talk to you about, which I'm so excited for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to ask you that there's been so many accomplishments, so many fantastic matches, and we talk about all the gold and all the companies you've worked for and all the fantastic highlights and matches. But do you ever find the time to sit down and reflect on what a crazy ride it's been the last couple of years?
So literally yesterday when we were talking about, the things that we could speak about today, I sat down, I wrote a little bit of a list of the things that I would like to mention and kind of people that I'd like to mention. I thought, wow, do you know what? I've got so much, so many amazing things that we could speak about. And that honestly makes me feel so unbelievably lucky and so grateful as well to all the people that have made this happen, because it is super exciting. And, this is what I love to do at my weekends, like, most other people. I have a full-time job, so I do this at the weekend, and to be able to do this every weekend and then go back to work on Monday and tell people all the cool things that I've done. Everyone at my work loves it because they get so excited about finding out about all the places I've been and, all the cool things I've done at the weekend. And that's really cool. I honestly love that so much.
Absolutely. Just a little bit of housekeeping. And of course, we spoke to ALUNA in December 2022. So we're not going to be talking about what fascinated her as a wrestling fan, what got her into wrestling, her training, and some of her early matches. Go and check that episode out, whatever number it was, from December 2022, nearly 2 years ago. So about 22 months ago. Go and check that one out. We're going to be focusing purely on the last couple of years and all the fantastic highlights and ALUNA's growth on the UK scene. But more importantly, we are live. So if you're watching us live at home on Facebook or YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are a fan of ALUNA, of course you would be, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, and you want to get in touch with the show, then we welcome your questions, we welcome your comments. Please get in touch with the show. And I said to ALUNA before we went live, we've had literally a ton of questions come in before
I'm so excited.
we even went live, and I've got a whole load that I haven't even checked yet. I need to have a look at them and bring them up on screen, but we're going to be busy with lots of fan questions. But please, we got time and we've got room for many more. So if you want to send in your questions for ALUNA, then please do so. And my next confirmed guest, now I probably am going to be having an interview next week, but I'm just sorting out some details with that guest. But the week after, and I'm going to bring up some details here, I will have none other than Nathan Angel coming on to the show. Nathan Angel will be rejoining me. It's only been about a year since I spoke to Nathan, but boy, what a year it's been. Mr. England, his Balls Out to Cancer campaign, World of Sport, still training and performing at, for Joel Redmond and ASW South and all over the UK, being a champion over in Germany as well, and really kind of branching out. One of the real success stories on the UK scene. He's only 21. It's absolutely sickening how good he is, the success he's having. But there's going to be so much to talk about with Nathan Angel, and he will be rejoining me. And let's just bring on that banner again, Tuesday, the 29th of October. So in a couple of weeks' time, 8 p.m, live and exclusive only on Wrestling with Johners. But back to ALUNA, and let's thank you, Nathan. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time, my friend. I recently saw one of your Instagram posts, and I'm just going to bring up. Let's just bring up. Have I got the right slide here? I haven't. I'm going to ask you a different question because I'm going to have to find my deck there. But let's talk about your growth over the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of growth. I mean, I've seen you perform a lot at Southwest Wrestling, at United Wrestling, and around the country. And in my opinion, you just seem to get better and better every time I see you. But what are some of the biggest areas of growth that you've noticed in yourself? And like I say, you're still training hard with New Wave Wrestling in South Wales, in Newport. You're traveling all over the UK. You're doing training camps across in Germany and Spain as well. But what are some of the biggest areas of growth that you've noticed in yourself in the last couple of years or so?
I think probably for me, it's got to be like general confidence. So whether that's in-ring confidence or confidence to message promoters, and the confidence to speak to fans. It's from somebody to see, or people who know me, and then for people to know ALUNA. It's so cool for me to see the confidence growth over the last 2 years. And yeah, just being able to kind of show that confidence in the ring now, because when I walk out and I do my entrance, we're all nervous, obviously, like we all get really nervous. But when you get in the ring, it's like, okay, I can do this. I'm confident. And I think if you can show that confidence, the fans believe it. And I think that's something that absolutely has to be the main thing for me is the confidence in the ring. Just to be able to do what I love, really, and then show it with how confident I'm feeling.
Are you feeling more accomplished as an athlete as well as a pro wrestler as well? And certainly you're training with the very best down in Newport. But do you feel more accomplished as a pro wrestler, as an athlete, as an overall performer as well?
Oh, definitely. Like since the last time we spoke, I've had some really, really incredible opportunities in the ring, and my training as well. Like I said, train at New Waves in Newport, and I think to be able to train with the people that we do, and train with the coaches that we do. We've got Brendan and Wild Boar and Danny Jones, Danny Luna, Nico. Like everybody there is now at such a high level because we're being coached by such high level performers that when we go on to shows and we do New Wave shows, everybody kind of brings each other up, which I think is really, really exciting. And being at New Wave has honestly improved my confidence, my wrestling ability. And I feel it when I go to the ring now. I feel that confidence I was talking about earlier. And I really think that, you know, we're always learning. Every single match we learn something new. Every single opponent we have, we learn something new. So I think it's really important to have the mindset that, you know, every single match you have, you're always learning. Every single training session you have, you're going to take something away from it. And that is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I never like to embarrass my guests, but it's usually only one or two photos that might make my guests cringe a little bit. But I'm going to bring up some pictures. And the other area of growth I think you've had is in your kind of appearance and your gear and how that's kind of grown along with your confidence and ability in the ring. And there we go. The picture on the left is a very early picture, the glitter, the makeup and everything, but a slightly more up-to-date picture on the right. But looking at some of your gear and the way that it's developed and the way that you've modified and evolved your appearance over time, which has given you a more confident and more mature look as a wrestler as we keep going through these pictures and the new gear. I think I read in one of your social posts that you have maybe 13 or 14 different types of gear, maybe more. And then, of course, we will take a deep dive into the green outfit there and the heel character and the reasons behind it, and even more so the red outfit as well. But some more recent promo pictures here. But the growth in terms of your appearance and your confidence in your appearance, there's been a lot of change in the last couple of years.
Oh, definitely. So obviously, as you can see in those pictures, I am somebody that loves wrestling gear. I think have, last time I counted, about maybe 13 sets. I just love it. I love being able to change up my appearance on every show. I've got 2 of the jackets now. I've got a beautiful silver one and a beautiful gold one that I wear. And I think it helps kind of elevate you as a performer as well. If you feel good in what you're wearing, it really does help kind of show that you're feeling that. And I'm very lucky that I'm with a coach now, with a kind of PT, DF coaching, who trains a lot of the wrestlers in Wales as well. And my kind of general appearance has changed over the last sort of, I'd say maybe 8 weeks. I've lost a stone now, which is obviously a huge amount of weight. I have people say to me, "Oh, you know, you didn't need to lose any weight in the first place." I appreciate.
Oh, I think we've temporarily lost ALUNA there. Have we got her back? We've got her back.
Yay!
That was a little bit of a glitch.
Hello.
Please continue. Those that blinked or went for a toilet break wouldn't have known, but please continue. She's still here, ladies and gents.
So the coaching I'm doing, I think, has really helped with the confidence and the body image as well. I think if you feel confident in how you look and see the gear as well, wearing different wrestling gears, I think it definitely helps the overall kind of image and the confidence. And to be able to be with DF coaching has been fantastic, and he's really done wonders for me. And I posted a little comparison photo the other day of like the last kind of, that's the one, that one there, the last sort of 8 weeks. And although, don't get me wrong, there was probably nothing wrong with the first picture, the second picture for me definitely feels a lot more like me. I feel a lot more like myself now, which is, it's much better.
Absolutely. And that was the social post that I was alluding to earlier, where I lost my place. That's the one. But I want to talk about a recent debut now, and it's for a very prestigious company. Wet Cake, of course. Let's talk about Wet Cake. We have to talk about Wet Cake. Now, I was there at the very first Wet Cake 2 years ago. This was the 3rd installment, and it's a bit of a match graphic here, teaming with Lucia Lee. Let's bring up some pictures of the whole show. And then now I will get to this, but of course you look more like Act 2 than Act 2 looked like Act 2. So there you are. In your match at Wet Cake. And of course, Wet Cake is a kind of a sister promotion to Sacrifice Pro from the Eagles Bar at Bedford Town Football Ground, a company, a charity group, I should say, that I know very, very well. And a couple of weeks ago, there you were reprising, or kind of, you were playing Benjamin Harland and Jack Knudsen, probably better than Benjamin Harland and Jack Knudsen. And there's a picture of the two of you, possibly before your match. Bring up this picture here, because you became the brand new Wet Cake tag team champions. I didn't know there was such a thing until I was going through your socials. But tell us a little bit about that, because Wet Cake is definitely the most, you know, batshit crazy show of the year. You made your debut teaming with Lucia Lee as Act 2, and of course we saw Act 2 there dressed as Lucia Lee and ALUNA. But tell us a bit about that experience. That looked like a ton of fun.
I think Wet Cake was the most fun I've ever had on the show. And I've had people say to me, like other wrestlers and fans, oh, you know, that is like the most fun I think I've ever seen you have on a show. And it's because it was completely genuine. Like the absolute laughs that we had, it was amazing. So the idea kind of originally came about, it was Lucia that originally said to me, shall we dress up as each other? Should they dress up as us and we kind of wear their clothes? And I thought, do you know what? That's a really good idea. Let's do it. Let's give it a go. And we kind of thought, well, you know, who's going to be who? And I thought, well, the hair color kind of sorts it out for itself. So let's do that. So I obviously ended up wearing Jack's gear, and Lucia ended up wearing Ben's gear. And the fun that we had, it was amazing. And then we had an idea that, you know, they would come out in our gear. Which I think they wore it better than we did as well. And it was honestly the fun that we had. It was such a laugh. And obviously, it's such a good cause as well. All the shows are for charity. And we now officially, somebody make it happen. We need to do Act 2 versus Act Lou, because Lucia and I are Act Lou, obviously. So we need to have that match. Please, somebody make that match.
You've got a ready built, your storyline already built feud there for next year. Yeah. Wet Cake 4. Watch it now. If the booking committee at Wet Cake Pro are watching this, they've got to make it happen surely. But that's a ready-made match for next year. But that wasn't the only time that you and Lucia have teamed recently, and it goes from the slightly comical Wet Cake Pro to the slightly more serious Rev Pro, arguably the top wrestling promotion in the UK. Now, it's not your first appearance for Rev Pro, is it? Because you had a match for them probably before our first interview a couple of years ago. It must have been a couple of years ago since you made your debut for them. But let me ask you, how did the two of you get the invite? And this time it was against the Cutthroat Collective, Alex Windsor and Mercedes Blaze, two of the most formidable and established individuals on the Rev Pro roster. But you had a tag team match alongside Lucia against those two probably a couple of weeks ago now. Yeah. So obviously Lucia and I had tagged at Wet Cake, and we had a great laugh. And then I got invited to work for Rev Pro, which is the second time that I've worked there. And I worked there originally in 2022. So yeah, it would have been before we spoke last time. And I wrestled Maya Matthews the first time round. And I had the invite to go and work for them again. I didn't actually know who I was wrestling until I saw the match graphic. And the match graphic went out, and I saw that Lucia and I were going to be tagging again. And I'm so happy that we did get to do that match together. And I've never wrestled Alex Windsor or Mercedes Blaze before. So to be able to wrestle two people that I've really wanted to wrestle for a long time on, you know, a stage like Rev Pro was very, very exciting. It wasn't the match outcome that we wanted. But as everybody knows, Cutthroat Collective are on an absolute run at Rev Pro. And, you know, we just had it was definitely a hard-hitting match. You can see why both of those women are, you know, two of the top women in the company and in the country as well. It was very hard-hitting, but Lucia and I definitely put up a fight. It just wasn't meant to be that day. Let's bring up some pictures. I think this is a backstage shot of the two of you before your match, and a couple of in-ring match in progress pictures there as well. And I'd say a hell of an accomplishment for the two of you. But thinking back, and as you just established there, it's probably a couple of years between your first appearance for Rev Pro in 2022 and this one more recently. You must have felt more equipped and more confident as a wrestler, as an overall performer, to tackle the task at hand of wrestling for, dare I say it, the #1 promotion in the UK.
I think the first time that I worked for them, I was obviously very, very new in my wrestling career. You know, I'd done maybe, I can't remember exactly, but maybe less than 20 matches. Like, I was extremely new. So to be able to have another match for them, like nearly 2 years down the line, and you know, to wrestle how I do now, and you know, feeling a lot more confident, and feeling kind of generally better in myself, it was a great experience. Really, really fantastic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring up some questions from people that are watching at home, and we've got Jim watching us live via YouTube. Hi, ALUNA. How are you? So you're great because you're on Wrestling with Johners, obviously.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. It's always good to hear from you, and it's very much appreciated. For those who don't know, Jim comes to many of the shows that I'm on, travels the country, and it's always appreciated. So thank you very much for your support, Jim. It means the world.
Brilliant, and thank you for watching, Jim. We've got Walter watching us live at home via YouTube. ALUNA is a good wrestler. She certainly is. And we've also got the Wrestling Outsiders watching us live at home via good friends of ours, of course, good friends of United Wrestling, and of Wrestling with Johners, and of course of ALUNA's. We've loved watching your journey over the last few years, especially as a pillar at United Wrestling. Now, we will talk in depth about United Wrestling because, you know, that's where I work with you and see you probably the most, with the exception of Southwest Wrestling. But let me ask you, and thank you so much to everybody that's sending in questions. Please keep them coming. Please keep them coming. I think with Rev Pro and getting your second bite of the cherry with Rev Pro now, does that kind of give you even more thirst and hunger for having more appearances for companies on that sort of scale? And, you know, does it kind of give you even more ammunition to kind of go out there and want to better yourself and perform on those type of shows?
Oh, absolutely. So being able to work for Rev Pro a second time was a huge opportunity, and to even to be able to work there the first time was incredible. So to be able to go back and work a second time was really, really appreciated, and I do hope that I get to do it again. And likewise, you know, for any of the other kind of bigger promotions, any opportunity we get to wrestle is, you know, always hugely appreciated, no matter where it is. Like, it's really, really appreciated that we get to work anywhere at the weekends, and to have promotions reaching out to you specifically because they want you to work on their show, it means the world. So yeah, to be able to work for Rev Pro and for other places like Rev Pro is amazing. But equally, it's just as fantastic to work for, you know, any promotion, because we are extremely grateful as wrestlers for anybody who books us on their shows, because, you know, without promoters booking us, we wouldn't be able to wrestle. Simple as. So it's very, very much appreciated.
Yeah, let me ask you, because I think typically, with the exception of New Wave, and we'll talk about New Wave, but typically you do wrestle babyface across the country. Good guy, Blue Eye, I think, as they used to call it. But and I think you'd probably agree with me that you maybe feel more comfortable in like a family type audience type of show, where there's kids and adults. But Rev Pro is your kind of typical indie crowd and very much indie show, with indie type matches. Not that it took you out of your comfort zone at all, but how was it going out there, and how were you received by the fans walking out there? I'm guessing that they were familiar with your work from around the UK, but you know, what sort of reaction did you get from the fans at Rev Pro, and especially with you going out there as babyfaces, as the good guys?
I think it's really important when you go through the curtain that you can't expect any fan to know who you are and to recognize you. Every time you're going through the curtain, you're reintroducing yourself to that set of fans, and I think that's super important. So every time I go through the curtain, I kind of pretend that this is the first time that I'm doing it again, and I kind of have to introduce myself to fans, because I think it's incorrect for me to assume that, oh, everybody knows who I am, because quite frankly, they might not. And to be able to go through the curtain at Rev Pro and to have people cheering me was just the best feeling ever, because I knew that there were people in the crowd who I knew from other shows, because they'd messaged me previously and said, oh, you know, I can't wait for this. We're really excited to watch you. So I knew that there were going to be people there from, you know, places like Ignite, and from New Wave as well, and kind of other promotions that I work for in kind of the London area and in the south. So to be able to walk through the curtain and get there, obviously I was with Lucia as well, so she's kind of well known at Rev Pro, so that was really beneficial. But to have people, especially during the match as well, people kind of cheering me on and kind of wanting me to get back into the match, it was fantastic. It was such a lovely feeling, it really was.
Absolutely. And I want to take you from your Rev Pro appearance a few weeks ago, casting your mind back a few months now to this here, a Wrestleversary 4 from your hometown, the Cheltenham Town Hall as well. And here's a picture of the fantastic venue itself. We're going to talk about kind of this match here and your journey with Southwest Wrestling, because when we last spoke, I think you hadn't long had your debut for Southwest Wrestling in Cheltenham against a certain Nina Samuels at the Frog and Fiddle. Now, what's a kind of a full circle moment going from a few years ago, a couple of years ago, making your debut in Cheltenham for Southwest Wrestling, albeit a different venue, to this past June at the Cheltenham Town Hall in front of hundreds of your fans, your friends, your work colleagues, your family members, where you became the Southwest Wrestling Warriors champion. And I'll bring up some pictures here because it really was a very, very special occasion. Cast your mind back to that day in early June, earlier on this year. Do you still get kind of goosebumps when you think about that day, that whole occasion and the outcome?
Yeah, that show was very special to me. I always say that, you know, New Wave is my home promotion because obviously it's where I train. But actually to have a promotion that is, I don't live in Wales, I obviously live in Cheltenham. So to have a promotion who is physically a bit closer to home is wonderful. So to be kind of part of the Southwest Wrestling family now, and to be their Warriors champion is just the best thing ever. Like, to have made my debut in Cheltenham in the Frog and Fiddle, in the venue where I started watching wrestling, to then go and work at the Town Hall, which is an extremely prestigious wrestling venue anyway, to win the Warriors title there was just amazing. And we built up a story with obviously myself and LA Taylor and Charlie Morgan, and Jetta was there as well. So it was really lovely to work with those two, and obviously to work with LA Taylor as well, and to be able to win the title in my hometown with, like you said, my friends and family and work colleagues, was fantastic. And the mayor of Cheltenham, he was in the crowd, which was lovely. And the mayor of Cheltenham was actually the chairman of Cheltenham Town Football Club, who I've supported my whole life. So to be able to go and shake the mayor's hand, who was also the chairman of the football club I support, was quite cool. That was a quite nice little moment. And yeah, it was a really, really lovely day. To be able to work in that venue was amazing. And to be able to win a title there was very special.
So I'm going to bring up some pictures here of the match itself. Such a wonderful venue. I've worked in there a few times, but this is easily one of the best shows I've ever seen or been a part of. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Your match against Charlie Morgan and LA Taylor. That was, I believe, the pin for the 3 counts.
It was, yeah.
And Rory handed you the championship. There you are with your hand raised aloft, enjoying every moment and thoroughly deserving of it. But I mean, the Warriors Championship, it must have been a title that you always kind of, you know, wanted to attain one day. From your debut with Southwest Wrestling back in the Frog and Fiddle a few years earlier against Nina Samuels, and then to eventually win that fantastic triple threat, especially after the journey you'd been on, chasing that championship, and chasing Charlie Morgan. Essentially, I think even before that Cheltenham show, you were the only one to have pinned her while she was champion, or during her reign, or during her run in SWW. But on a personal level, what does it mean to you to represent that company as the Warriors champion?
Oh, it means the world to be able to represent the promotion that works kind of closest to where I live effectively, is really, really lovely. And to be able to, I think to be able to represent any local wrestling company is fantastic. But when, you know, you win the title in your hometown and you've got kind of affiliations with the venue that you made your debut in as well, Oh yes, it's wonderful. It really, really is. It's such a lovely feeling.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I think you've got some maybe some title defenses around the corner. In fact, I may well have seen a recent promo video that Southwest Wrestling have put out advertising their next Cheltenham Town Hall show for January 2025,
Yes.
and you feature front and center in that video. So, are you looking to? Well, I'm assuming that you'll still be Warriors champion come January, which I'm entirely hoping you will be. But you won the championship in the Cheltenham Town Hall in June. I'm sure you're looking forward to defending it in January, back in your hometown again.
Obviously, you know, it'll be really, really exciting if that is the case. I do hope that, you know, I can hang on to that title for as long as possible. And fingers crossed we make it to the point where, you know, I'm defending it in the town hall, in the same venue that I won it. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving swiftly from Southwest Wrestling to New Wave Wrestling, and we've spoken about them briefly a few times already during this interview. I'm going to bring up some pictures here because you're going to see a few pictures, a version of ALUNA that you may not be terribly familiar with. And this is the heel, the bad guy, ALUNA. And looking, usually you have a smile on your face when you come through the curtain. There's definitely a grimace there, definitely an attitude, definitely, you know, a meanness to you, you know, a fresh kind of attitude. And yeah, I mean, you can explain more, but explain to me the kind of the genesis of the heel turn, because I was shocked when I first heard that you turned heel for New Wave, because you were the ultimate babyface. You are the ultimate babyface wherever you go. You know, the fire, the passion, you know, the fans cheering you all around the buildings. But in New Wave, you turned heel about a year ago, and you've not looked back since. What was the kind of the story behind the heel turn then, ALUNA?
So I had one of my favourite matches of last year. I had my match with Conor Mills at the church in New Wave, and that was probably one of my favourite matches, but also one of my best performances as a wrestler to date. I absolutely loved that match. We got a standing ovation at the end of the match. I was in tears. Like the reception from the wrestlers when I got backstage was unbelievable. Like I've got goosebumps talking about it. Like genuinely, like it was such a brilliant match. I really enjoyed it genuinely. And then after that show, I then got left off a couple of shows. And at New Wave, I thought, well, you know, I've had literally the best match I've ever had. And, you know, what more have I got to do to be featured on the shows? So it was probably about a year ago now, after ALUNA had...
Oh, I think we might have lost ALUNA just temporarily there. We're back again. We're back. Lovely. Yeah, I think someone's trying to get. I don't know. You're getting phone calls or something. It's your fans reaching out saying, "I'm watching you on Johners."
So after the match that ALUNA had with Harrison Bennett, I was just absolutely sick of being left off the shows. So I decided to do what I needed to do, and I haven't looked back since at New Wave.
Absolutely. And you also appear to be having a ton of fun as this new heel persona. Now, I mentioned the babyface ALUNA, you know, with the sparkles and the glasses and the kind of light up shoes, but it's an entirely different appearance, an entirely different presentation. And I brought up some pictures there, but the green outfit, the spikes, very fetching, the different makeup. And yeah, like I say, just the different look, the menacing look that you have there. You wouldn't know that you were a babyface throughout the rest of the UK, but you look like you're having a lot of fun. Is this alter ego from a alternate, you know, universe ALUNA, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, the New Wave was the first time that I've ever worked heel. Promoters will know that I used to literally reach out to them and say, "Can I work babyface? Please don't asked me to work heel because I don't want to do it. And it was kind of limiting, you know, what I could do, because some promoters genuinely really wanted a female heel to work for them. So yeah, I thought, you know what, let's give this a go, see what happens. And I've been very, very lucky with the opponents that I get anywhere on the circuit. But to be able to work with some of the amazing women that I have done at New Wave over the last couple of months has genuinely been absolutely fantastic. And it's really helped me kind of learn to work as a heel. I think my match that I had with Dani Luna in Newport, that was a really special match for me, because it was a match where I haven't been heel that long, really. So it was a match that I really enjoyed working as a heel. And then recently I had a match with Kanji, and first time Kanji and I have ever worked. And that again is a match that I genuinely really, really enjoyed. And people probably notice I don't put a huge amount of clips up on my social media, but I made sure I got all the clips from that match. Like, I really, really enjoyed that match. And I think that was another match where I started to feel a little bit more confident working as a heel, because it is different to working as a babyface. It's very weird having the crowd boo you when they've cheered you for a really long time. That is a weird thing to get used to. My mum really freaks out whenever she comes to shows and people are booing me. But I think to be able to work Kanji was just amazing. And, you know, we got told that it was match of the night, which it just means the world. When you get comments like that, genuinely, it means so much. So that was, yeah, super exciting. And then I get to wrestle Rain on Friday, this Friday coming.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you mentioned about Conor Mills and it being kind of a bit of a dream match for you. And
yeah.
you know, I think we may have spoken before you had that match and you were really, really looking forward to it. I think you may have worked a multi-man match. Yes. I think possibly teaming with him or against him before that singles match. And I know how excited you were to have that match against Conor Mills. It's one of your favorite matches to date. But going back to your more recent match with Dani Luna, and I know that you worked Dani maybe the year before, when you were kind of much, you were still learning, but to face Dani again more recently with you as the champion this time, and the dynamics changed because, as you mentioned, in this match you were fairly new to being a heel. Here's some pictures here from the match of you being dastardly there, whacking around the head with a championship belt. Yeah, like I say, hitting her with one of your patented drop kicks there. But a fantastic match, a match you're very, very proud of. Similar question to what I asked regarding Rev Pro earlier and kind of the difference in a performer and kind of athlete 2 years on. Between those two matches with Dani Luna, it must have felt like a different match and a different ALUNA going in the ring with Dani Luna this time around compared to the first time.
Yes, definitely. So I'm very, very lucky that kind of outside of the kind of shows, Dani Luna is one of my coaches. So I'm extremely lucky to be able to work with her as a coach, but also as an opponent as well. That is absolutely fantastic. She is by far one of the best female wrestlers in Europe. And to be able to work with her in the ring, you just learn so much. So yeah, very grateful that I've been able to have those opportunities to work her, because yeah, the learning opportunities when you get in the ring with her are fantastic.
Yeah, and of course, congratulations to Dani Luna, because I believe that in the PWI 250, she was ranked very high, about 22. So which is absolutely fantastic, and I think that the highest ranking, maybe just below Lyra Valkyria, who was maybe a couple of places above Dani Luna, but Dani Luna doing a wonderful thing for TNA, of course, and of course around the UK, and no less with New Wave. But you get to work with her very closely on a one-to-one basis, and of course having those matches with her in New Wave as well. I mentioned earlier that you are carrying the gold in 2024 as the Southwest Wrestling Warriors champion, but also the New Wave Wrestling Women's Champion. Now, the inaugural champion as well, I believe, the first ever women's champion in a New Wave Wrestling ring. Being a company where you've trained for the last couple of years and has been fundamental to your growth and fundamental to your development, and to the type of athlete and performer, pro wrestler that you are today, what does it mean to you to be their women's champion and their first ever women's champion, and them giving you all these wonderful opportunities?
Oh, it means the world, honestly. Like, to be able to represent your home promotion where you train, as not only their champion but as the first champion as well. That is, yeah, very, very special, very, very special. And to do it as a new challenge as a heel is it's very exciting, and I'm very, very much looking forward to kind of going forward and working with New Wave, because there's so many exciting things lined up, and I can't wait for the fans to see it. Very, very excited.
Absolutely. Let's just see exactly where we are. So we did have a question regarding New Wave that came through before we went live. Now let's just find it here. It's from Sam, who is a big fan of yours, and I think he probably watches you at New Wave and around the country. But Sam Bruton, what did it feel like to beat Conor Mills at New Wave Wrestling last September? So take us back to that, because we spoke about what a fantastic occasion it was and what the match meant to you. But tell us what it felt like to actually beat him, to be the victor over somebody that you greatly admired before actually stepping into the ring with him.
Yeah, it was very unexpected, and I think to be able to work with someone like Conor, who is extremely well known on the UK circuit, and somebody that I've always wanted to be able to work with him at New Wave meant the world. And I think there's a clip or some pictures maybe online of like after the match, and like I'm very overwhelmed because the crowd are on their feet, and he puts his hand out to me and he goes to shake my hand, and I didn't at the time, I didn't believe that he wanted to shake my hand. But he did. He stuck his hand out to me, and I almost didn't shake it because I was like, "What are you doing?" And he put my hand in his hand, and we shook hands. And to have that feeling was just amazing. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. A match you'll never forget, I'm sure. I want to talk about WXW now. And last year, you'll bring up the right graphics, Jonas. Here we go. Last year, you went over to Germany to train. Now, I think it was possibly for a week when you were with WXW in their training academy. But tell us about this opportunity, because it really is a fantastic opportunity to go over there, train with some of the best coaches in Europe, and to take away all of their knowledge associated with one of the biggest independent companies, not just in Europe, but in the world. And they've produced some incredible talent. And if you think about two WWE performers, Ilya Dragunov and Gunther, of course, they, cut their teeth in WXW. And like I say, they've had strong ties with Progress and various promotions around the world over the years. But more than anything, they're well renowned for their coaches and the people that they produce. And you got to spend a week with them last year. Tell us about that opportunity and that experience, ALUNA.
Well, we're very lucky at New Wave that all of the coaches, obviously because they're so well traveled, they've got so many networking opportunities for us. So the opportunity came about to go and train for a week at the WXW Academy. And it's somewhere that I've always wanted to go and train, but I didn't really think it would be possible. So when that opportunity came about, I absolutely snapped the hand off and I was like, yes, please, that's somewhere I want to go. So went out there for a week, and I went with two of my very close friends, Rye Stevens and Eric Fort Myers, who I used to train with in Gloucester. And we went there for the week and we had the best time. We had so much fun. And it's always nice to learn from different coaches who aren't your own, because every coach will give you a different way of doing things. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a right or wrong way, but it's a different way of doing things. And I think that's really important for wrestlers to get out and about and to go and learn from other coaches, because you do pick up new things that you think, oh, okay, I didn't know how to do that, or I've learned a different way of doing it. And just general networking as well, like going to meet, like a lot of the guys in the photo there were from America. They'd come over for a European tour. So we got to train with them, which was super exciting. They were all really, really lovely. And yeah, the coaches are fantastic. They really looked after us. We had a really, really good week, and would absolutely recommend it to anybody, because yeah, they were fantastic with us.
Absolutely. We spoke earlier about your growth over the last year or two, but what were some of the kind of the takeaway moments or the takeaway experiences or learnings from that time over in Germany that has maybe benefited you when you came back onto UK soil?
Well, I think I definitely realised it's something I wanted to do again. I loved it. Being able to kind of fly out and go and train at a training school in Europe was overall a really, really fantastic experience. So this year I did the same thing and flew out to Holland and went and trained with the guys at Pro Wrestling Holland for their weekend training camp that they did. And then the opportunity arose from the training camp to get booked on the show that they did that weekend. So that was super exciting. So to not only to learn from the coaches and work with other trainees that I'd never met before and never trained with before, but to be able to do a show for them at the end of the weekend was really, really fantastic. It was great fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about United Wrestling now, because I mentioned that besides SWW, United Wrestling are another company where I've seen and worked with you a lot over the last couple of years. Going to bring up some pictures here. And you were, of course, one of their top stars, or still are one of their top stars, one of their pillars, dare I say it, former future-proof champion. And you've had a fantastic journey and rise with United Wrestling, not only as their future-proof champion, but in other tremendous singles competitions and tag team matches. But United Wrestling are one of those promotions in the UK that have kind of pulled you in, looked after you, given you great opportunities, and given you a great platform to really kind of grow and demonstrate who you are as a performer, as a pro wrestler. What's United Wrestling meant to you over the last couple of years that you've been working for them, ALUNA?
So anybody who's been to a United Wrestling show will know how special it is. Like, it's genuinely a really special place to work. They work in really cool venues. So they do brewery shows. So the venues themselves are always gorgeous to work in. The fans are fantastic. You have a lot of regular fans that go to United shows. And that's great because like they get to know us as performers, and they get to know who to cheer and who to boo, and that's really great. And they get really invested in the storylines, because United are really good at doing kind of more prolonged storylines. So we've got a storyline at the moment going with the Pillars versus the kind of self-titled Pillar Killers. So I think I'm very grateful specifically for United, for the friends that I've made there. Like, the friends that I've got at United are some of my closest friends in wrestling. People like Artemis and Chris Aries, Arthur Scurro, Josh Spicer, Josh Folds, Simon Quest, who's recently retired. You know, we're all really, really close outside of wrestling. And then obviously for Mike, the promoter, to kind of bring us together and create this group called the Pillars, and we're like super duper babyface, and it's great fun. To then have us now working alongside the Pillar Killers. So you've got Tommy Kyle, who leads that group. Alongside, I know, boo you, Tommy Kyle. And you've got Sapphire, who, you know, is a genuinely incredible female wrestler. And recently Jay Joshua has joined the group as well. So, you know, we've got those guys kind of versus us at the moment. And Tommy Kyle is a constant thorn in my side. Like, he just keeps popping up. And we've had matches recently. We've had a tag match recently. And you know, as much as I hate to say it, he's absolutely the right person to lead that group, because he is a fantastic professional wrestler. He's an absolute tit, when it comes to the pillar killers, because he's annoying us all so much. But I've wrestled him a few times now, and genuinely, like, some of my favorite matches have been with him.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier that you were the future-proof champion. I think you won it in about April last year, and held it through to the end of that year. But injury kind of stepped in, didn't it, and meant that you had to vacate the future-proof championship. When I got to be honest with you, you're probably the hottest babyface on the roster, and everybody was kind of waiting for you to cash in the future proof, because the gimmick with the future proof is once you hold that, you can cash that in for a shot at the United Heavyweight Championship. But you never got your opportunity to do that, which I'm sure was gutting for the fans and for yourself. I'm sure that was something that you were waiting to do and wanting to do, but never quite got your opportunity to.
Yeah, I think so. In February this year, I was wrestling for another promotion, and I dislocated my kneecap in the match doing a moonsault. So anybody that notices that I used to do a moonsault and don't do one anymore, that's because the last time I did it, I dislocated my kneecap. Stupidly, I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to panic anyone. I sort of had this weird, like, out of body experience and popped it back in myself, which is probably a silly thing to do, but I was in the middle of the match. It was my debut for that company. I didn't want to ruin it. So and I also didn't want the person that was wrestling to panic either. So, because it wasn't their fault, it was a complete accident. It was a bad landing from the moonsault. So I didn't want anybody to panic, so I didn't tell anybody. So I just popped it back in myself, carried on. But that obviously meant then that I needed to rehab it, and I couldn't wrestle going forward for a few months. So the kind of most appropriate thing to do, I'd held the Future Proof title for a while, and I thought the most appropriate thing to do was to give it up, because I didn't know how long I was going to be out for realistically, and I didn't want to hold a title that I couldn't defend, because everybody at United knows that I'm absolutely a fighting champion, and I just couldn't sit on that belt and do nothing with it. So I decided to give the title up. I got in the ring, did a promo to say that I was going to give the title up, and then I also did the promo a second time in sign language as well. So anybody that follows me knows that when I do my entrance to the ring, I sign my entrance music, or I sign the words to my entrance music. So I did a similar thing, but with a promo. I'd never done a promo in sign language before. It was absolutely terrifying, but I did it, and I got a really, really good reception from that as a standalone thing. But also, for the decision to give up the title, because it's not easy. It's never easy to, actively give up a title that you've worked really, really hard to get your hands on. So that was absolutely gutting, but I'm really glad that title is now in a good place again, and that it's kind of being used going forward. But I am really, really devastated that I didn't get to try and do my cash in at least.
And let me ask you, I don't think the Future Proof Championship is the only route towards the United Wrestling Championship, and of course we've got LA Taylor as the United champion at the moment, and of course Artemis is one of the contenders vying for that championship, and I'm sure there's various others that are kind of eyeing up LA Taylor and the title. Let's say the Future Proof Championship isn't the only way to the top, and isn't the only way to the main championship. I know that you've got the Pillar Killers that are causing havoc at the moment, but is the United Championship or something similar still in your eyesight, and maybe something you'd like to hold over your shoulder one day?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to hold the belt that effectively I never won. It would be a real honor to represent United as their champion one day, as their main champion one day. But we'll have to see what happens. It's I'm not the number one contender, so I need to get my acting gear and kind of find new ways to win, because at the moment I'm not on a very good streak at United. I haven't had the best of luck. The Pillar Killers keep getting involved. I keep having matches with them, which I keep losing. And, you know, the match that I had recently, it was Tommy Kyle and Sapphire versus myself and Josh Spicer. And, you know, Sapphire and I obviously wrestled in that match, but we've also wrestled before at Ignite Pro Wrestling. And that match was very special to me when we did have that singles match, because it had been built up over about 6 months at Ignite. So the fact that we got to face each other at United, yeah, that kind of rivalry has been building up. So it was good to finally get in there with Sapphire and have that match.
Absolutely. Let's jump to some more fan questions because they keep piling up, and if I don't ask them now, I never will. We've got two very similar questions here. First of all, let's have a look. We've got Dan Williams watching us live at home. Hard to look past the absolute barnstormer that was the Nico Angelo match, and I think that was from day 10, about June of last year. And we also had Wrestling Outsiders again, so many great moments, but the match with Nico Angelo was a standout. Looking forward to what's next. Now, I've spoken to you in person, and I've also spoken to Nico in person, and that match that you had when you were the future-proof champion was one of the best matches I've ever seen. I think that the two of you had incredible chemistry. I think it was the first time that you two had worked together. And of course, you may have already mentioned it, that Nico is one of the coaches at New Wave as well. But I think with your babyface fire and the fight and the struggle that you demonstrated during that match, which is what it's all about and what ALUNA does better than anybody, and the punishment that Nico Angelo put onto you, it main evented that show, and it was every bit worthy of a main event. It delivered, and like I say, it was not just my match of the year, it's one of my matches of all time, and I was privileged to have seen it. But what are your recollections of that match against Nico Angelo?
So to be able, whenever you get to wrestle one of your coaches, it's always very exciting, because you know it's going to be a huge learning experience. Nico is someone that I'd never wrestled previously in the ring. Obviously, we've worked together at training, but we've never wrestled in ring. So to be able to work with him at United, somewhere that means a huge amount to me, was very, very exciting. To main event and to put the Future Proof title on the line was, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I did some moves in that match that I've never done before. But it's kind of, it's about having the utmost trust in your opponent. And obviously with Nico, that's, you know, always going to be the case. So yeah, that match, I remember how I felt in that match. And that match was one of the ones that really started to kind of, like you said, build up the fire and like the never give up attitude that ALUNA has. That match was definitely one of the highlights, to kind of bring that emotion of the match to the forefront.
Absolutely. And that match is available on United Wrestling's YouTube channel. I checked it out myself again, probably for the 10th time the other day in preparation for this, just to relive, honestly, one of my favorite matches of all time. And it really was a perfect combination of, you know, you and your fire and your grit and your determination, and Nico Angelo and his, you know, his kind of hard hitting technique. But was you sore after the match? I probably saw you after the match and interviewed you after the match, but I'm sure that I mean, let's be honest, a lot of your opponents, Simon Quest, Tommy Kyle, Nico Angelo, they're hard hitting and they put you through the ringer every single time. But you know, you always come back with a smile and, you know, swinging. But you must have been hurting after some of their matches.
They're definitely hard hitting. You know, it's like I kind of mentioned earlier, like it's always fun for me to go back to work, like my real life job, on a Monday morning, and you know, explain to them what I've done at the weekend, and you know, what part of me hurts, and what silly things I've jumped off, or you know, like the stupid things that we do. So yeah, I think I've definitely had a few matches this year where I've come back on a Monday morning and I'm a little bit sore. But honestly, it's so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Some quick fire questions from me before we go back to the fans' questions. And I was quite curious by this picture that I found on your Instagram of you as a fan on the left-hand side, and a big fan at the time of Millie McKenzie before you started training, before you even had your first match. And then there you are on the right-hand side, having the opportunity to work against Millie McKenzie. Now that I know you've had a couple of singles matches and I think a tag match involving yourself and Millie. But from where you started off as a fan of pro wrestling and getting to see Millie work as a fan, a few years ago, to now actually working with her, being a peer of hers on the same level. That's incredible, isn't it? That's just a fantastic kind of full circle moment from fan to pro wrestler.
Yeah, so it's really nice. Like photos, I've got a couple of photos like that where I've met various wrestlers as a fan before I started wrestling, and then you get to work with them as a wrestler, like as their opponent. Is honestly the coolest thing. Like it's fantastic. And that was at Black Country Wrestling, where we worked in a singles match, and it was so much fun. And to be able to work someone that you've looked up to, I messaged Millie before I started wrestling, and I was like, "How would you get into wrestling?" She was one of the people that I messaged. So to be able to kind of have that nice little full circle is really nice. And people that followed me will know that I didn't get into wrestling through WWE or through like computer games. The way I got into wrestling was going to watch indie wrestling shows. So my kind of versions of the WWE heroes are the indie wrestlers that we've got around us now, and that's so exciting for me to be able to work Millie and others like Millie. It's really, really exciting. And I every time I get to work people like that, I'm like, wow, okay, this is actually happening. This is so cool.
Yeah, that's how I feel as an interviewer when I finally get to interview people like yourself and Millie McKenzie and people that I watched 10 years ago through till now. But it's always a cool moment. I brought this picture earlier on of your match against Sapphire Reed, and I believe this was in an Ignite ring from a few weeks ago. But I know that Ignite are another company that you're very, very passionate about, similar to United, Southwest Wrestling, New Wave. They're another company that have helped to elevate you, give you great opportunities. Not only Sapphire, but many other awesome talents. I think we mentioned Nina Samuels earlier, and that's another fantastic wrestler that's done very well in the PWI 250 that you've also wrestled at Ignite. But Ignite are another company that you hold very close to your heart, and are a company that have done some tremendous things for UK wrestling in the last couple of years, put on some wonderful shows, and you're one of the performers that they've given some great opportunities to.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky to be able to work for Ignite regularly. They're based in Bournemouth in London, and I don't work for a huge amount of promotions in London, so I'm very grateful that they've sort of adopted me, and I get to work on most, if not all, of their shows now, and that's really lovely because the fans know me there now, and I've got to have some really, really cool matches, and I've worked Nightshade, I've worked Nina, I've got Chantal coming up, and yeah, the recent match I had there with Sapphire was, as well as the match I had with Kanji at New Wave, is genuinely one of my favourite matches that I've had this year. And I think those two matches were like back-to-back weekends as well. So I had Kanji the one weekend, and then I had Sapphire the weekend after. And yeah, to be able to work Sapphire, it's the first time we'd ever worked in singles. And again, I put some clips online of that match, and the chemistry was unreal, like absolutely unreal. We hit each other very hard in that match, but it had been building up. Like Ignite had built up this storyline, and we'd had a tag match, and then I'd kind of got involved in a match that Sapphire had with Artemis. That was when I was off injured, and then the fact that we got to have this singles match to kind of I guess, like draw a closure to the storyline was amazing in itself. But to have the match that we had on the show that it was, like the show was fantastic. We're very lucky to have the guys from Hitting the Turnbuckle involved in the shows at Ignite as well. I'm extremely grateful to be sponsored by them this year. So that's amazing to have those guys in the audience as well, and to help, you know, put on those matches. But to be able to wrestle Sapphire at Ignite was really special, because yeah, we went to town in that match.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's currently over in the States doing some wonderful things stateside. So best of luck to her over there to make an even bigger name for herself. A few questions that we got before we went live, ALUNA, and Darren Ewan, who I'm sure is watching us live, big fan of yours. What do you think has been the biggest achievement in your career so far? And who would you make a dream opponent for you, either UK based or overseas? So a bit of a two-part question there from Darren, but what do you believe is your biggest achievement, biggest accomplishment so far?
I think for me, my biggest achievement is to be able to be wrestling every weekend. You know, I'm extremely fortunate to have, you know, 1, 2, sometimes even 3 shows in a weekend. And I know that there are so many wrestlers who, you know, would absolutely love that opportunity. So I'm very aware that that's an opportunity that I have, and I'm extremely grateful for it. Obviously, you know, the title wins that I've had, the promotions that I've worked for have been amazing. And you know, the opportunities just keep coming, and that's so exciting. But I think to be able to, obviously, apart from having the short time off that I have because of my knee, to be able to work every single weekend regularly and have regular work for different promotions really, really means the world, because I know that I'm very, very lucky, and I'm extremely grateful for it. So I'd say that is probably my biggest achievement. But a dream opponent, I've kind of got a couple of these.
You've wrestled a lot of the big names in the UK, but I'm sure there's a
lucky.
few still on your bucket list, and maybe some overseas opponents. What say you?
Yeah, so I have got a couple in the UK that I would still really love to work. We've kind of either come close to working and it hasn't quite happened, or we've just never worked. So I would really love to work Emerson Jane. I would really love to work Anita Vaughan. And I would really love to work Lizzie Evo. Like, they're 3 girls that we haven't managed to make happen yet as a match. And I would absolutely love that. I think overseas, I had a really, really cool fangirl moment when I did a video of me signing my entrance song in the ring at Ignite. And I shared it because Chris Statlander did she used to do ASL when she went to the ring. And I shared it and I was like, oh, I'm inspired by Chris Statlander. And she shared it on her Instagram. And I was like, okay, this can't be happening. Surely not. So yeah, someone like Chris would be amazing to work, just because I had a massive fangirl moment.
Yeah. And going back to when you signed your promo at United, that was just absolutely, it blew my socks off. It was just so fantastic and really, really kind of, yeah, it's just really, really special moment for you and for everybody that was there, and for everybody that's seen that video. Go and check it out if you can. Really, really special moment. I've never seen anything like it, and it was just so unique and so special, but really, really good. We've got Megan watching us live at home via YouTube. Trains with Joel Redman at ASW South, Mega Storm. But what's been your favourite match so far this year? Asks Megan.
So I think it's probably the 2 that I've mentioned, Kanji at New Wave, and Sapphire at Ignite. But I would also be silly if I didn't mention the Act Lou match at Wet Cake. So I think those 3 have definitely been matches that will stay with me. They've been fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's have a quick look. Right, here we go. Let's have a quick look, see what we've got. So you've probably already answered this one, but we've got Wrestling Revolution. Keaton, what's been your worst injury that you've ever had? It's probably the knee that you mentioned earlier, I would say.
Yeah, so I'd say in terms of like seriousness, it's probably been my knee. obviously I appreciate that, you know, there are people who are out for a lot longer with a lot worse injuries than I've had. So I'd say, yeah, dislocating my kneecap was probably, in terms of like pain, is probably the worst, because I literally had an out of body experience when it happened. It was the weirdest, weirdest thing ever. I'd say in terms of like irritating and annoying, I split my lip middle of this year, and it took ages to heal. It really took. I split it like literally straight down the middle. It was a bit minging. Luckily, I didn't need stitches. That was good. It healed itself and it sorted itself out. But I'd say in terms of like irritating, that was really annoying, because like every time I ate or drank anything, it was just stinging. It was really painful. But other than that, I've been quite lucky really with injuries. I did hurt my ankle year before last. Luckily, it was only kind of superficial. So yeah, I'm very lucky in terms of the injuries that I have had, and that they haven't been super serious. But yeah, I'd say my knee is probably the worst one in terms of serious, and then splitting my lip open wasn't ideal.
But the thing is, we're not going to see any more moonsaults from you, so
no,
we're not going to see a repeat of that dislocated thing. No more moonsaults.
I do them in training just to kind of keep the movement there, but that's with a crash mat. I don't think I'm going to be whacking one out on a show anytime soon. I just can't risk it, unfortunately.
And we got Megan again. Wow, I think she's thrown out a bit of a challenge here. Could you see you versus Megastorm in a match at ASW South? How's about that?
I would love that. ASW South, book that match, please.
Absolutely. Joel, if you're watching, make it happen. Make it happen. Right. So let's see what else we have, because we did have some more questions. So Richie, good friend of the show. And Richie was very kind enough to send a picture of you and him the last time he was at a New Wave show. Richie is a good guy. He's a good guy. He's asking, what can we expect from ALUNA in 2025? Great question, Rich.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So definitely in terms of what I would like to do, a bit of a goal for me, since I went out to train with them last year, I would really love to work on the WXW women's show, the Femme Fatale show. That would be a dream booking. I would really, really love to do that. So fingers crossed that could happen. I'm hoping to go out there again to train with them. It's always great to network and great to work with the coaches. So that would be something I would really love to do. But in terms of general, what's going to happen, I'm just going to keep training, keep kind of being the best that I can be inside the ring and outside of the ring as well. And just seeing what happens. I think it's quite exciting just to see, you know, what's going to happen. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to do anything specific, because I just enjoy wrestling so much. Anybody that knows me outside of the ring will know how much I love professional wrestling and how passionate I am about it. So I'm just going to see what happens, and you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, good things will keep coming my way. I've been very, very lucky, and I'm so grateful for, say, the last time I spoke to you, to be able to speak to you now and have all these wonderful things to speak about. I'm so grateful and so lucky. So yeah, fingers crossed for a very exciting 2025.
Absolutely. And an injury-free 2025 is what we want to see.
Please.
And more gold. Let's have a look. We've got Jim again watching us live at home. Thank you, Jim. Where are you wrestling this Saturday, ALUNA? Now, that does bring me to my next point, because let's talk about, you've got a busy weekend coming up, haven't you? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this coming Friday, you are defending your New Wave Women's Championship against Rain Leverkusen, which is going to be a tremendous match. I'm not sure if that's a first-time encounter, but I'm sure you'll tell us in a minute. And then the following day, Saturday the 19th, an old foe of yours in CSF, Western Supermare. So I think Jim very kindly asked, where are you on Saturday? Well, I think we know now you're going to be Western Supermare for CSF, but by the sounds of it, Jim is very, very keen on kind of your matches, your up and coming matches this coming weekend. And tell us about those matches. Yeah,
so on Friday we've got the show is actually now sold out, which is fantastic. So we've got
great.
Sold out New Wave show in the church. And I will be defending my women's championship against Rain, who has obviously very recently come back from injury. So when I beat Kanji at the last New Wave show, I was very shocked to see Rain come through the curtain. Didn't expect that at all. I didn't expect Rain to be my next challenger. The reaction that she got from the crowd was, I think, probably one of the biggest reactions I've ever heard on a show. Like, the room was absolutely electric. So I'm very excited to see what happens on Friday. It's not the first time we've wrestled. We did wrestle many years ago for UBW. Both of us were still very new.
Well, yeah.
Both of us still very new. And that was the first time that we'd wrestled, and we haven't wrestled since. So I'm very excited on Friday to see where we both are now. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then Saturday, debut for CSF Wrestling in Weston-super-Mare. And as you can see there, I've got LA Taylor, who I've worked numerous times. Always love having a match with LA Taylor. And very, very excited to see what CSF brings this weekend.
One of your early foes from when you were both breaking into the business. And we mentioned United earlier on, and their next show coming up, Monster Bash 3, Sunday the 27th, so just around the corner. You are on the poster there, but I don't think you've got a match that's been announced yet. Now, you probably can't let the cat out of the bag, but I'm guessing the fans of United Wrestling and those that will be in attendance at the Tap Social are quite curious. You're going to be there, and you're going to have some involvement in the show.
Yeah, so I am on the poster. I don't know who I'm wrestling yet, but we have a slight issue in the sense that LA Taylor gets to decide who Artemis faces. And there's a bit of a stipulation going on for Artemis's match with LA Taylor, her upcoming match, which is for the United Wrestling Championship.
Yeah.
The issue that we have with this show is that LA gets to pick who Artemis's opponent is, and if Artemis wins, then Max Jaggard doesn't get to be ringside for their match.
Good.
But if the other person wins, he does. So Max has kind of become a little bit of a sticking point at United at the moment. And I saw online the other day that somebody suggested, when LA put her post up to say who should she pick, somebody suggested me as Artemis's opponent, which we really want to wrestle each other, but the stakes are really high if we do wrestle on that show. I hope that match, whoever LA picks, I kind of hope it's not me, because I want to win matches. I need to win matches at United.
Yeah.
But Artemis really needs to win that match, because otherwise Max is going to be ringside, and that's going to be awful.
There's a lot of stakes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of stakes, but you have to be there yourself. Get your tickets, go to any of United Wrestling socials, click on the links, get your tickets for the Tap Social. As we explained earlier, United Wrestling, one of the best up and coming promotions on the UK scene, and always a fantastic atmosphere in the Tap Social. Always tremendous matches with some of the best talents from around the UK. You will not be disappointed if you've not been to a United Wrestling show before. Do yourself a favour and get yourself down there for sure. And we did have Jim reach out again a bit earlier. Now let me find it. What merchandise do you have available, ALUNA? So I know that scrolling along the bottom of the screens are your socials. So if you would be so kind to read out your socials, where we can reach out, say hi, learn more about ALUNA, but also tell us a bit about your big cartel.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook. I've just realised that my Facebook still says ALUNA Blue, which I don't go by the name ALUNA Blue anymore.
You do not know.
Purely because I wanted to wear different coloured gear. So I need to change. You've just reminded me. I need to change my Facebook to ALUNA. but I don't have Twitter. That's a personal choice, so you won't find me on Twitter, I'm afraid. But my big cartel, I do have t-shirts available. I do have signed prints available, and they're also available to purchase from me at shows as well. I did have stickers, but unfortunately the stickers sold really well, and I've now sold out of stickers, which is a lovely problem to have.
That's a good thing,
yeah. I need to get some more printed, so I will have some more stickers. And I do have a new range of promo pictures as well that will be going on sale. So signed promo prints. So I've got some new ones that haven't been seen on the merchandise table before. So they'll be going on sale this weekend if anybody would like a new print that's signed by me.
Brilliant. And I believe this is your latest t-shirt.
Yes.
A very, very cool design it is as well. Any more designs in the future, maybe to represent your heel character, or what have you got in the pipeline?
I would love some heel merch, definitely. But I do have another t-shirt design that's in the pipeline at the moment. So I'm hopeful that I can get that onto a t-shirt very soon. But heel merch would be cool. I'd really like that.
Yeah, but heels aren't meant to sell merch, are they? That was my mistake. I shouldn't have brought that up. Heels don't sell t-shirts, but they certainly do, because I think the heels have the best t-shirts.
Yeah, they do.
But something to think about there. Something to think about. But ALUNA, it's been incredible having you back on the show as a returning guest. This last hour and 20 minutes has absolutely flown by. But one thing I like to do with all of my guests is to ask them if they've got any parting words, any final words to sign us off this episode of Wrestling with Johners to your friends, family members, followers, supporters at home. Any final words from ALUNA, the Wonderland warrior?
Well, I guess thank you very much for anyone who's tuned in to watch this live, but also to anyone who's going to watch this at a later date. It really does mean the world. Like, your support to us means everything. We couldn't do this without people supporting us, whether that's family and friends or work colleagues, promoters and fans. Like, it really does mean the world. Your support means everything. So thank you. I'm very, very grateful, as I said, that I've had the last 2 years since I spoke to you. I've had lots of cool things to talk about and lots of cool things that I've done. And I'm just very, very humble and very grateful that I get to experience those things. And I feel very lucky, and I'm very excited to see kind of what happens going forwards, and what the rest of this year looks like, and what 2025 is going to look like as well.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you achieve in the next 2 years, so we can get you back on for a third appearance.
Let's do it.
And do it all over again with some more highlights, some more wonderful experiences to talk about. But the Wonderland warrior, ALUNA, thank you so much for being a good friend of the show and a fantastic guest, and I can't wait to see you at the shows. But thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Take care.